at this point, as we head into the overnight session and tomorrow, the larger time frame question is whether the bigger picture bullish bias is now going to kick in and result in a bounce or a reversal. Because the Nasdaq is very overextended to the downside, and even though it's been in a bearish pattern, so let me bring up the daily chart for NQ. So NQ has been in a bearish pattern, right? We got this move down here and balance breakdown. NQ has been the more bearish market, and you can see even if we measure this swing, which we were doing over the last few days, NQ just bounced into the 38% retracement and then failed and then went down and took out its recent lows. The problem is that the Nasdaq and the mega cap stocks that make up the Nasdaq are now all either at or very close to bigger picture support. And remember that our bigger picture bias is still bullish. Now, when the markets push down into bigger picture support, that's where the bigger picture bias is the most relevant, right? So our bigger picture bias has been bullish throughout this entire downside move, but it's only relevant when the markets push into the same time frame of support. And that's what they're doing now. They're either approaching or testing bigger picture support, particularly the stocks in the Nasdaq, or at least the mega caps within the Nasdaq. So one of my screens has these stocks on it, right? Just so I'm aware of what the big movers are doing and how they're behaving. And you can see Nvidia, for example, is approaching significantly better support. You have this big breakout area from roughly $96 mark up to about 102, 103. You have the balance area high right over here. So even though, yes, Nvidia has been weak over the last couple of weeks here, it's now approaching this big area of support, which is roughly in the $91 to $101 range. So that's big support. If we look at Google, again, you can see that it's now approaching, this balance area low over here. And if we zoom out, we can see this is also a breakout spot. So it's approaching, big support, and it found buyers there, and it's holding over here. Across the board, these stocks are now at levels where I think it's going to make sense for bigger picture buyers to start stepping back in. And again, the bigger picture bias is still bullish, right? So now these stocks are approaching areas where those bigger picture buyers may find it attractive to jump back in. And that can then result in a bounce or a false breakdown attempt here in the Nasdaq. And it can drive NQ back up. That can then feed into the S&P, which did not even take out its balance area low and held the 27 quarter to 37 quarter area today, and that can produce a bigger bounce in the S&P as well. So it's all kind of linked and interrelated, and you kind of have to be aware of these other things if you want to trade the S&P successfully. So that's something we're going to be watching out for. That is the bigger question on our mind right now. So we have the Fed announcement tomorrow afternoon. We have big earnings throughout the week, and I think the market's just really getting overdone to the downside. And if today ends up being a false breakdown on the daily chart, then we have to be open to the possibility for these markets to rally back up to the balance area highs. And that means NQ can go back up into 19,000, 300 to like 400 over here, and maybe even try breakout above it. I think, NQ, similar situation, ES, similar situation. If we hold 54, 27 quarter, 37 quarter, we might just end up eventually rallying back up into the top of balance yet again. So, don't allow today's downside move to overshadow the bigger picture view of the market, and understand that there is now potential for that bigger picture bias, which is bullish and has been bullish, to kick in and become effective. Now it's relevant, right? The bigger picture bias in most situations is not relevant, but now it's relevant, right? And now it matters. And a core part of contextual analysis and looking at the market through this very contextual lens is knowing how to weigh the various factors or signals that we look at. So up until now, the bigger picture bias hasn't been in play for us. I think now it is. And I think now we need to be at least cognizant of that and understand that if bigger picture buyers do step in here, institutional buyers, then it could catch the shorts. And if we start breaking out above 55, 25 to 35 as an example, then a lot of people will be caught on the short side, and that can trigger a short covering rally and short squeeze. So that's the big idea as we head into overnight. And the overnight session just opened, and ES is already back at 54.70 as an example, right? So that idea of bigger picture buyers stepping in, it looks like it may already be in play because so far ES is running on 300% relative volume, right? 332% relative volume, and it's already back up to 54.70 off of that 54.27 quarter, 37 quarter support. So I hope this kind of shows you why that zone was so important, and just the idea that trade location is the most significant source of edge and the most reliable source of edge should really be something that is further ingrained in your mind just based on what's happening right now, right? I mean, this is not an idea that was discussed after the market opened and popped up. This is an idea that was in play already going into today's overnight session, and we've already seen a significant bounce now, and it's very early on, right? We're only 9 minutes into the overnight session here, and this is already the bounce that we've seen off of that 27 quarter, 37 quarter zone. And remember that this is how that trade was structured. 33.75 entry, very easy scale out, 41 quarter, 57 half, high probability target, final target 68 half. So even if you end up buying in the closing range here, you'd already be way in the money here. So these are ideas that play out consistently. It's not going to work out 100% of the time, but most of the time it works out pretty well, and you don't need it to work 100% of the time. Even if it works out half the time, as long as you're getting 3R from your winners and limiting your losses to 1R, the math is going to check out, and overall, you can't help but make money.